Welcome to this week's Smart QA Musings, which is a gentle flurry of interesting thoughts. And today we continue on the expectations from modern quality engineer on the part two, which is really on expectations on work and outcomes. So what is expected of a modern QE? This is what we talked about last week, and we said, hey, it's just more, it's being more than just tech savvy. It's not just about being technologically good, it's something beyond more. And we said that, hey, the expectations are really multidimensional. They span across the mindset, skills related to testing, technology, and domain, human aspects, communication, leadership, and so on, other facts. And finally, the practice of work and the outcomes that are delivered. It is value, really. And this, the practice of work and the outcomes, is what we are going to talk about in this webcast. So if you have to put the entire picture and outcome, this is how we view the expectations. Right? We can think of it as four parts. The mindset that I need to have, which is useful to build certain capabilities, which drive the activities and the work that I do, hopefully resulting in outcomes that are valuable. And that's how the structure of expectations in a way is: mindset, capabilities, work, and outcome. And the first two is what we talked about last week in the earlier Smart QA musings. And this week, this Smart QA musing will muse on expectations of work and expectations of the outcome, from the outcomes. So let's look at the expectations on the practice of work. There are many. As we see here, there's probably a whole lot, and maybe you have some more that you can add in or extend some of these, but largely it is about aspects of, how is the work being done? Is it comprehensive? Is it thorough? Is there enough amount of depth? Technical, I just don't mean as in terms of technology, test and depth included in the technical work that we do. Is it based on some kind of methods and not just experiential, so that it's logical? Is it planned and organized, and as much as ad hoc and creative? Is it about, it's not just about the work that we do, it's also about the beauty in the work that we do, in terms of the data that we use. Is it in terms of the code and script that we produce, and so on? It's also in the way we kind of work with others. Are we assistive? Are we helpful? Going beyond just the way I do. And then further up, it's about communication. It's communication in terms of clarity, in terms of clearing status of communication, and so on. And as we do work, we always keep the big picture. And it's not just about the work that we're doing now. We're trying to constantly understand, can it be moved earlier? Can it be done earlier, that is shift left, so that we can minimize and optimize the work that we do? And in the work that we do, are we constantly adjusting, steering to the changing needs every day and as of now? And as a process, we want us to improve, we want us to be low variance in what we do, and so on. So the whole lot of stuff. Now, if we think about it and reorganize it, this is how it look like. One bucket would primarily focus on the method of doing. What are we talking about here? The way I do the work is organized, logical, can be explained, can be justified, and therefore it is thorough, it is deep, it's logical, it's planned, it's also creative, and it's beautiful. And therefore, one of the expectations of work is on the area of the method of doing this. It's not just about the doing, it's an organized method of doing. The second bucket would be in terms of how do I enable others to do. It's not just me doing work, but am I able to enable others to do well? Could be in terms of assistance. Could be reviews. I could be helping. It could be debugging. It could be anything that helps somebody else to do their work better. That's also part of my doing. The third one is really, I am doing work. Am I able to communicate? I'm expected to communicate my work to somebody else, and therefore is it clear? Clear in terms of what I wish to say, clear in terms of status of work. It could be progress, it could be quality, it could be request for help, anything, right? So we were talking about the work as in terms of how I relate it to other people, the other stakeholders, could be my team members and outside communication. The fourth one is on how I do. While I'm doing my work, the expectation is that you don't want to forget the bigger picture. You want to be proactive. You want to be able to shift left. You want to be able to constantly adjust and steer. In the work that I do, I want it to be of low variance. I estimate and I say, hey, it's going to take 2 days. You're expecting me to complete in 2 days, not more, not less. So you want low variations in terms of the estimated time, effort, quality of work that I do, and so on. And the other expectation is we're constantly improving the process of work so that you expect me to contribute to the overall process. And finally, the work that I do, is it optimal? You want the work to be constantly be looked at such that it's done with the least amount of effort rather than more. And finally, the work produces some stuff, right? So we are kind of interested in seeing that the work that I'm doing and when it produces stuff could be assets, could be checklists, could be test cases, could be approach, could be framework, could be scripts. Can I leverage? Can I reuse? Because it saves future effort. So these are some of the expectations that one possibly has on the practice of work, which is in a way bucketized into the methods, enabling others, communication, how I do, and what I produce. And that's, in a way, how I would simplify it in terms of the expectations on the practice of work into these 5 major buckets. Now, let's move on to the final part of the discussion, which is really expectations on outcomes. And like in work activity, I think there's a lot of outcomes as expected. You want it to be high coverage, you want less escapes, you want good visibility, you don't want to work crazily, you don't want to work extremes, you want low amount of rework. Well, you want no outages, you want it to be fast and secure and friendly and all the attributes of product and so on. So there's a whole lot of outcomes that are expected from the individual. So let's again do the same thing what we did. Let's simplify this. And let's simplify this. Before we simplify, let's ask a very important question. Who expects outcomes out of me? And if you look at it, there are many people who have expectations from me. And that could be internal people like the senior engineering management. It could be the project manager. It could be my immediate supervisor or lead. I mean, it could be other stakeholders in the system, which is not really part of the engineering development. It could be support, it could be product management, right? It could be even business analysts. And finally, of course, it's my peers, my team members. So there are some set of expectations of outcomes from the various internal folks. And not limited to internal, there are external folks whom I may not know, but they have an expectation out of my work. And that could be end users, could be the customer who is really, is where all the end users live. It could be the business of the customer, could be my organization, which is my customer. And lastly, it could be the community of QA. Why are we talking about community? Because the work that I do could be interesting enough that if I share it with the community benefits. And therefore, we limited to the organization that we work in. We're also trying to see if I can have impact, if I could add value to the larger community of QA folks. So let's now take it further and break it down. We saw that there were various outcomes expected. Let's arrange this out as in terms of the internal and external folks. As you can see here, the various members who contribute, the internal folks, are on the left side of the line, the dotted line. And on the right side of the dotted line are the external folks, the end users, the customer which has the end users, and the community at large. So let's start with the first one. What do peers expect? What do my team members expect? They expect as outcomes that I will help them to solve some of the problems. Hopefully don't pressurize them into extreme work by giving them surprises or not doing some good work. So, you want a certain amount of balance in what we do. This could be one set of expectations that my peers or team members could have. My supervisor lead could have expectations on outcomes as, that my test cases are adequate, I have good coverage, I've done a good job. Obviously expected as outcomes would be as, zero defects, escapes, ideally zero. What you're really saying is low defect escapes. A very clear visibility in terms of charts and figures and numbers and metrics so that, he or she is able to clearly understand what I have done, how well I have done, and make judgments, right? And of course, my supervisor lead expects my team or my work to be done on time. Going further on into project management and talking about what they expect, something similar. They expect no misses. That means, hopefully I've done a good job in terms of coverage and stuff like that, right? No misses. They expect low rework. I expect no assumptions. So if I have a question, I should not assume. If I have a doubt, I should not assume. They expect that I will clarify. I will question. And because we're all in it together, the project management expects that I go the extra mile to take extra effort to solve problems, to do the extra stretch if needed, and so on and so forth. That I am indeed adaptable. And adaptable simply means, there could be a piece of work that is not sometimes very interesting, but I may not they don't expect me to complain about it. They expect me to bite it and do it because it's in the larger interest of the project. So adaptability could be various things. Adaptability to be learn and try to do it, or do some things that are grunge and so on. And ultimately, they expect the product to be delivered is of low risk. And if there are issues, they help enough information to be given, factual information to be given, so that they can make good decisions, informed, logical decisions. Now, when it comes to the other folks in the internal, like engineering management and other peers in the organization, like product management and support, or the larger context of the organization, you might find some of these coming out there. And what do they mean? They are about, I expect the product to have no support. That means you don't get too many tickets from outside. You expect the system to be up and running full time with least amount of outages, ideally no. You want it to be fast and secure and friendly and all that stuff, which is all the product-related attributes. If there is a notion of deployment and acceptance and so on, you want it to be smooth. And some of these, as you can see, is crossing over that vertical line. What does it mean? They're not only internal expectations, they're also external expectations of end users and customers. And what do we mean by saying positioning here? That the value of the expectation of an outcome in terms of the work that I do is that it helps us as a company, especially the marketing folks, to position the product well so that they can sell more and hopefully expand the market share. So how is that connected to what I do as a QA? Because ultimately, product management and marketing have delivered they have promises that they have made, that this is what the product will be. This will be the fastest product. This will be the most friendliest product. This will be the most innovative product, etc. Right? And that's what they probably try to position as USP. And what I'm trying to hint at is that if we see the larger picture as to our role in the organization, we can certainly add a lot more business value to the larger context by helping them position better, by helping them deliver on the promises, and therefore scale up the revenue, increase the market share, and so on and so forth. So it's not just about product testing, right? And going further up into the end users and customers, in addition to some of those things that we also talked about, like lower support, etc., the more important is aspect, the expectation, unwritten but deeply expected, is it helps their business. So they buy a product from us, they deploy a custom application from that we have developed. Why? Because it is supposed to improve their efficiency, maybe. It is supposed to improve their productivity, maybe. It is helping them to scale their business, maybe. And therefore, all that means is it helps their business, improves their business. And therefore, our value is not, our outcome is not limited to the product. It is really limited to the customer's business, right? And that's really the larger picture that is very useful to keep in mind. And finally, as far as community is concerned, if you're doing some very interesting work, we've got a new idea, we've got experimented with something that has been very beneficial, you certainly will want to share it to the community at large, maybe via meetups and conferences and papers and blogs and so on, as long as you don't violate any intellectual property. So the final, one of the final things I want to talk about is the fact that we could add value to the QA community at large. And it's nothing to do with the organization. It's just that we, as individuals, as a part of organizations, can deliver some interesting experiences that could be very valuable to the larger community and help us as a community to grow better, right? And what is it outcomes alone? No, it's what the people are really expected is the value of the outcomes, not just outcomes. So what do we mean by value? It could be technology value, which means testing. I do a great job of testing. I've done it thoroughly. I've done it rapidly. I've used the greatest tools. I've used the best methods and so on and so forth. That's more like technical value. The next level of ring would be engineering value. I've done it optimally. I've been very pragmatic. I've reduced the risk and so on, which is really the larger context of software engineering. Going beyond the technical value and engineering value is the notion of a product value, that the product is friendly, fast, clear, clean, good, and so on. And then going further up in the value chain is really the business value. How does it help me as a producer of the product increase my revenue, increase my market share, improve my profit, reduce my cost of doing work? And to the end customer, how does it improve their business? How does it optimize their work? How does it help them scale? And so on. So there's a business value, and business value is always about, in some sense, time, cost, and money, right? Doing things faster to reduce cycle times and do more, to improve, the revenue and reduce the cost and so on, and deliver a far greater experience to the end customers. And that's really the value of business. So you want sticky customers. And finally, we talked about the community value. How are we helping the community at large, the QA community, and that's really what value is all about. It's not just outcomes, right? So what does it mean? It simply means, from the context of QA teams, quality of work, and therefore the outcomes related to that. The engineering management's outcomes are value is all about the value that they have in decision making as in terms of products, decision making as in terms of budgets for doing some things better. Some of them could be new tools that we want to buy within the QA, or we want to improve the process or improve the practice or scale the team and so on. So that's all decision making, right? So there is outcomes. And finally, we talked about the organization business as in terms of revenue and profit. External, I think we talked about the fact that how does it improve the end user's productivity? How does it help scale up customers' business? How does it help advance the QA community? And those are the values that are expected on the internal and the external side. They're normally not as clearly written, but they are innately expected, right? And therefore, think about value as in terms of what is the value in for me, for my team, for my supervisor, for my engineering management, for my organization, for the business of my organization, to the end users, to the customers, and finally to the community, right? And that's how you may want to think about when it comes to the higher notion of value, which is slightly beyond outcomes. So to sum it up, what we really talked about in the last two webcasts is to look at the expectations from the simple framework of mindset, capabilities, work, and outcomes, where mindset was really about the attitudes and beliefs that I have, which shapes my capabilities, which is really about my skills and knowledge, which ultimately results in good actions that I perform, which is work. And finally, delivers results that are meaningful, which deliver higher value, which is outcomes. And we all saw that they were very well connected, that the mindset, the capabilities and work and outcome, they're linearly connected, and that's how we use the picture. But what we closed with is, it is not just outcomes or work or capabilities and mindset, is really the end value that we deliver. And that is what is most meaningful. And this is, in a way, a simple framework of mapping out expectations that you can use to improve yourself and grow, enable an organization to do better work and scale, and certainly add more value to your customers, the end users and customers, and the community at large. And this is a nice way to kind of reflect and figure out what I need to do in the upcoming year, for example, to improve and therefore grow within the organization or outside the organization and influence the community. So thank you so much for patiently listening to an interesting topic of expectations of a modern quality engineer.